What's up, you guys? It's Greg. Today we're going to talk about budgeting 101. If you don't know anything about budgeting or just want a refresher course on the basics, then this video is for you. I'm just going to sit down. We're going to talk about budgeting, kind of some topics and some categories you're going to want to have in your budget. And I'm going to walk you through a sample monthly budget. I encourage you to follow along, kind of create your own budget as we go along. This video isn't going to be super polished. I'm not going to make a ton of cuts on it. And basically, I'm just going to kind of talk through the process because budgeting sucks. Like, budgeting really sucks. And it's not fun. It's like dieting. Like, it has to be a lifestyle change, and it's going to be something that's just really not fun until you don't necessarily notice it anymore. So if this video isn't going to be polished, like budgeting isn't polished. So we're just going to pull it up. I'm going to walk you through it, kind of walk through what I do in my budgets. So let's jump over to it. I couldn't get the stylus to work on my iPad, so I went ahead and typed it up and just whited them out so we can kind of keep it a little bit more condensed and not quite as much information all at once. So I'll just go ahead and change the font color when we're going to talk about them. So when it comes to budgeting, I think it's important to start with either your income, monthly income, bi-weekly, or weekly, whatever that would be. We're just going to use $5,000 a month for this example, $5,000. And if you don't necessarily know, you can look on your pay stub to figure out exactly what you make, or if you know what you make per hour, as a general rule of thumb, you can take that. So let's say $15 an hour, you times that by 2, so that's $30. And you add 3 zeros, that's roughly $30,000 a year. Usually it's give or take a couple of $1,000s, but it'll get you at least a close start. And I like to use that, just in case people are like, oh, this job's hiring at $12 an hour or $20 an hour. Well, $20 an hour, that's $40,000 a year. Times the number, the hourly wage by 2, and then add 3 zeros. It'll get you relatively close. So it'd be really cool if you'd hit that like button. That'll let YouTube know that, hey, this video is pretty decent and I'm gonna push it to more people. Because let's be honest, the US education system has failed our financial education, and therefore we have to learn how to budget and manage our money after we've already graduated school. So hopefully this video gets shared on YouTube a little bit more people will know about budgeting. So we're just going to start $5,000 a month for this example. I would encourage you to follow along and change this to fit your monthly budget. So I think the first 4 things to put at the top of a budget would be, let's see, where's the color thing? There we go. Is 1, your mortgage. That's very important. 2 is food. 3 is utilities, and 4 is gas for the car, because you have to be able to get places, you have to be able to get to work, you have to be able to get to the grocery store. If you, drop your rent mortgage check off at the bank, which I don't even know if they do anymore. Well, you'd have to get there and have gas in the car to be able to do that. So I went ahead and put that on there as the top 4, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like gas for the car should really be up there, because you're like, well, I could really just drive less and spend less on gas. But that's a topic for another video. So we're just going to go ahead and put mortgage, food, utilities, car. So mortgage is important because you got to have a place to live. Or mortgage, I'll do mortgage slash, sorry, my keyboard is rent. I got one of those 60% keyboards, so it's not a full keyboard, so I got to change the function keys on there whenever I try to do certain functions. And it always messes me up. I got to change between like the slash and the question mark, and there's this whole thing. It looks cool, and I like it. I wouldn't change it for the world, but it's kind of annoying sometimes. So mortgage, rent, this is important. You got to have a place to live. You got to have a place for your family to live. Food, because you got to have food to eat. Everybody eats. As we kind of continue to talk about this, we're going to talk about how we can kind of pull back our spending. In this example, I'm going to be giving you kind of the categories, and then from there, you're going to input what you actually spend. Because, for example, like this budget may not actually represent you at all. Like right now, as an estimate, I have $1,400 a month for a mortgage, which would be your principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So principal is the actual balance of the loan. Interest is what you pay the bank as kind of a fee for allowing you to have the loan. Your taxes, and then your homeowner's insurance, which will typically all be kind of combined in the escrow account that they collect monthly for that property. So you want to make sure to continue to pay that, and that's definitely at the top of your budget, because you don't want a foreclosure on your record if you can avoid it. Most definitely something to avoid at all costs. Next is food. We talked about you got to eat. Utilities, because you got to have electric, you got to have water. So kind of once you get these core categories locked down, meaning that those are the top 4, everything else becomes slightly more optional, because when you're budgeting, you want to make sure that you're not going in the red and you're not going negative. You want to stay in the black at all times with your budget. So meaning you want to live on less than you make. And also you want to, kind of as you start this budgeting journey, you eventually want to have an emergency fund where you just have cash in your savings account to where you could pay an expense. Like let's say you have a medical expense, or you have a, like for example, this last week, a tree fell on my truck. Broke the sunroof, crushed in the part of the roof. It's going to be about $5,000 worth of damage, but thankfully we have insurance, and my deductible for that's $1,000. If I didn't have that emergency fund, then not only does an annoyance of not having my truck and it become like an emotional problem, it also becomes a financial problem, because I'm like, where am I going to get this money? And then I've got to put this $1,000 on a credit card, and then I'm going to end up paying interest on that. So that's kind of the goal for this whole budgeting journey, because if you don't budget, you don't learn to budget now, then you're going to have to learn to budget later. Like let's say you're on Social Security and a fixed income. So it's definitely important to take control of your finances now. So let's just move down the categories. I'll open up a couple more of these so you can kind of look and see. So then after, so this is kind of like, where is the, there we go, underline. Well, we'll just there. Why can't I find this? Oh, there it is right here. Bottom line there. Okay, so this would be the cutoff, I would say, and everything else kind of just is under that. And the next we have car insurance. You got to have car insurance. Well, you have to have car insurance based on your state. You don't have to necessarily have comprehensive insurance. It's something I would recommend, especially if your car has any value whatsoever. It's different. If you're driving a $500,000 Honda Civic, you probably don't need comprehensive coverage. It's probably cheaper for you just to buy another car than it would be for one to have insurance, comprehensive insurance, and then also pay the deductible on that car, because they might just total it out if you get a reasonable any damage, any reasonable amount of damage. Medical insurance depends on how much you make. Honestly, for a period, we didn't have medical insurance. Now we have medical insurance. That's most likely going to be something that you're going to kind of pull out of your paycheck. It's probably going to stay on your pay stub if your employer provides it. And then the next category I like to throw in to make sure to have is debt, because everybody has some sort of debt. And if you didn't have any debt, then you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So car payment, see a couple of the debt sections here. Can I find it? There we go. Credit card. So in this debt, this is actually going to be just a scratch category, because you're not going to want to just lump your debt as like, this is my debt. And this right here where I have listed as the debt is not the total amount of that debt. That doesn't go in your monthly budget. So you want to put like what your car payment is, not the total amount due for the car. You want to put what credit card payment 1 is and credit card payment 2 is. Because typically people have some type of balance on their credit card, and we really want to knock those out to get that off, because the interest rates are so high on that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So when you list it next, just list the debt. You can leave this as a free category. You can put a little dash there. It won't mess up your spreadsheet. And just an FYI, why I'm using the spreadsheet is because I haven't found an app that I like Mint, or actually, I was going to pull up my phone, but I don't think I have any of them even downloaded. I don't like that you have to go in and manually enter everything on your phone. For me, I spend a lot of time on the computer, so it's much easier for me to do it in Excel. So that's why I do it like this and basically freehand the process, because this is what's easier and this is what works for me. But you can go ahead and download. It's like mint.com, every dollar. I think it's like every dollar, everydollar.com. It was Dave Ramsey's app. That one I hear is okay. If I could find an app that auto-tracked my spending, meaning it like pulled from my credit cards, pulled from my bank account, pulled my mortgage information, and basically did everything to where I could just have the app and then it would do literally everything. I think the Apple credit card does something similar where it breaks down all the categories, but I would want this added into the app for me. So it's actually easier for me to just pull up my credit card statement online and then just kind of add it in from there, because it's like, oh, all the $140. Okay, well that's part of my food budget, so I'm just going to add this in there. So this right here, this category, these expenses would probably be more. I probably should move this over a little bit more. I would say this would be goal expenses. And then this should be actual expenses. So then you can go and write what your goal is, and then you can zero out your balance down here and then actually write down what you actually spend. So, you know, for example, we're actually gonna spend $1,400 on our mortgage. That's actually gonna be, that was our goal. And we hit that goal in our actual expenses. But we'll jump into that a little bit more when I show the rest of these numbers to kind of figure out how we can kind of maneuver the money around a little bit. So then just open up the rest of this category here. I don't really remember. We'll see, what else did I write down? Oops, that doesn't. Going to reset, and then we'll make that black. Savings. Okay, savings, recreation fund money, and miscellaneous. These categories are hard because these are really the big categories for everybody that's just, they spend too much money on. Would be the food, credit card 1, credit card 2, recreation fund money, and miscellaneous. We do consider, or I do consider, recreation fund money and miscellaneous to be different categories. Like miscellaneous would be, hey, I've got to buy nail clippers or something, mine broke. And fund money is like, oh, I want to buy this drink or whatever, like this, something fun. I went to the Ferrari Challenge North America came through. So I went to the race. So that came out of my fund money and not in miscellaneous, because it wasn't like a miscellaneous need that I have to have. It was something that was fun. So these are like really big expenses that a lot of people have, and that when you actually go and take your goal expenses and then compare them to actual expenses, they're probably going to be a little bit higher than you actually thought they were going to be. And that's really the goal, is just starting to write down, starting to track where you're spending your money, because eventually you will start to actually spend less money because you know where your money's going. And also, the more you look at your money, the more you're going to be like, ooh, I'm spending that, or ooh, I'm making this, or ooh, this is where my money's going. You're going to be more concerned with where it's going, and you're going to want to keep a little bit more of it. So like I said, it is a lifestyle change, and there is going to be some more categories. These are just my main ones. And keep in mind, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial planner. This is not financial advice. I'm just kind of giving you what I do and how to make my budget. So I'm going to go ahead and free up the rest of these categories in terms of a sample budget that I have. And how you spend your money. So at a $5,000 a month income, we'd have $1,400 for rent or mortgage, which is probably okay, or probably realistic. $600 for food. This to me seems like a lot of food. My wife and I, and we have one young daughter. We eat for, I think, $300. When it was just $300 in New York. We're in New York right now. And when it was just the two of us, we live in North Carolina, we'd eat for $50 a month. So we'd eat for $200 a month. Granted, this includes going out to eat. That was our goal. Utilities, $250. I feel like that's probably reasonable to assume, kind of have a goal. Unfortunately, like utilities, you can't really do anything about, unless you're going to like decrease your internet and stuff like that. I mean, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and throw internet in there as a category. Let's say you spend 80. I think I pay 80 right now for internet. So I'm just going to throw 80. Probably reasonable. And this is kind of budgeting. Like, I have this, or I spend this, or this is in my life that they didn't have on their sheet. Sorry, I'm going to try to move my mouse pad. My hot in here. My arm's sticking to my desk. You can probably hear it coming through the mic. So gas per car, 150. Obviously, this is going to depend on you. I got a truck that takes a lot of gas. And then we have my wife's car, but granted, we don't drive a ton, so maybe this is higher for you, maybe this is lower for you, depending on what part of the country you're in. Right now, our gallon's up above $3 a gallon. So, car insurance, $67. This is going to depend on your specific circumstance. This is basically what I pay, I think. Medical insurance, this is going to depend. Does your employer pay it for you? Do you have some type of subsidized medical insurance? It's going to be personal. This is just an estimate for goal expenses, which you can, again, fix the goal expenses to what your actual expenses are going to be for a fixed cost like this, like car insurance, medical, mortgage, rent, utilities, kind of things like that. Your debt payment, so like let's say you have your car payment at $540, well, that's going to be fixed every month unless somehow you're going to be able to pay that off quicker, which we'll talk about later. I'll probably make a second video on how to actually like squeeze out more money out of your finances in order to, one, get out of debt, have, and then start a savings and kind of the strategies behind that. But this is definitely the first step in starting on where my money's going. And just basically that's it. Just figuring out where your money's going. That's really the biggest thing. I have credit card payment at 35 because this seems like this is like the minimum payment that you can make. So if you're carrying a credit card balance, I really hope that you're not paying only $35 on it just because the interest rates are so absolutely ridiculous. So that's why I threw that in there. Student loans at 100. Student loans are pretty common right now. Personal loans at 50. This could be just like a personal line of credit from your checking account. I wouldn't consider personal line of credit to be like a HELOC, like a home equity line of credit against your home. I would actually, if you have one of those, I would put those up in one of the top categories, like make that a top 5 instead of a top 4, because that's very important, because that's a loan. It's a secured loan that could get foreclosed on. Excuse me. It's a secured loan that could end in foreclosure in your house because you can't pay your first mortgage and not pay your second mortgage, and somehow think that they're just going to let that slide. So I would add that up at the top. If you have a HELOC or this probably wouldn't apply, but like a RELOC, like a rental equity line of credit. Savings here I have at $500. You might be saving, you might not be saving. If you're not saving right now, you definitely need to add this in as a goal expense because you want to pay yourself. And that's going to be a big thing about getting out of debt and really getting control of your finances, is having the ability to save, basically living on less than you're making. When I say saving, I mean like putting into a savings account, but also like paying off debt, because having a ton of savings, like having $100,000 in savings, isn't exactly doing you any good if you have $70,000 in credit card debt and you're not paying that off because you're accruing so much interest on that. Recreation and fun money at 500. You'd be surprised at how much you spend on things that are just like fun, going out to bars, going to sporting events, I would consider this to be going to restaurants, like going out with your friends. Like it's different if you're going out on like a date with your spouse, but or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. But fun money definitely is a big category for a lot of people. And then miscellaneous. I had miscellaneous at 800. This again is just estimates. I don't know what your actual spending is going to be. Just for reference, our miscellaneous is probably closer to like 100, and then between me and my wife and my daughter, we each have $15 a month. So this is what our fun money and miscellaneous looks like. Just as a reference. So it is possible to bring those down. They are just lifestyle changes. I just went ahead and Command Z'd those to kind of bring those back. And then internet at 80. So if we go ahead and reveal the total for that, I want you to guess and think to yourself, is that too much, or is this budget meaning that I'm overspending and therefore going farther into debt this month than I wasn't last month? Comment that down below if you think that. If you think that this budget is going to result in a negative deficit. And if you did, then you would be correct. And actually, this is not, there we go. I'll make that so it includes the internet there. So this is actually in the red and not, and double check that I am actually recording. Cool, I am recording. That's not the first time that's happened where I just don't hit the record button or whatever, or I forget to turn the mic on. I'm like, not again. So at almost $500 negative, that's not good. Like that's really not good. Like that means you're $500 poorer than you were last year. And realistically, I think that if you have things in this category, then you really need to diminish the areas that you spend in your food. Not going to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store, buy your food. Like you enjoy that, but stop going out to eat. You need to bring in your fun money, bring in the miscellaneous. You don't have that much miscellaneous. If you have this much miscellaneous, then you're not budgeting correctly, and they need to fall under a category, and you need to prioritize in where you're going to spend your money. So yeah, if you got stuff in this category, and you don't have a bunch of savings, then definitely you want to take a look at that and kind of get that debt cleaned up. But so let's say you're going through, I'll just run through real quick. I know this video is probably going to be super, super long. you know, you're like, oh, okay, well, actually, Greg, I don't spend $600 a month in food. We only spend, we only spent 525. So like, let's say you were looking at this at the end of the month and you're reviewing the past month, because this is your first month budgeting, and you're just seeing where you're spending all your money. Well, you'll watch me do it right here. So I'm equaling the monthly income minus sum, which is just the total number of all the categories that I'm going to be putting out together. So therefore, between those two, we are in the green, actively $3,000 right now, but obviously we got to fill out the rest of it. So utilities, let's say that's almost accurate, but let's say you spend $275. Oh, okay. Gas for car, you take a road trip. Like taking road trips and things like this, they count towards the gas for the car. Like everything counts. Like you don't just get free passes. But you're in a state that's cheaper to live in than New York, and you have a car that's more economical. So your gas is only $110 for the month. So that's good. Car insurance, you spend the same as I do. Medical insurance, your employer pays for it, or you have some type of really good medical insurance. So your premium or your monthly premium is only $200. Now this doesn't include saving for like a medical emergency or your copay. I was thinking deductible, but it's not deductible, it's your copay. Then you have your car payment. That's only, well, let's say, we're assuming in this example you have a more economical car, so it's going to be slightly less. So you have a car payment of $430. Okay, but you have your minimum credit card payment, or what you're paying on your credit card's actually higher. So you paid this month minimum, I don't know, $150. It's obviously just an example. Or you know, realistically, this is going to be most of your expenses. Like you're going to put most of your expenses on their credit card. I have seen people do the Dave Ramsey thing where they go with cash in an envelope to the store, and that's the money they have to spend. And I was never able to do that. That never worked for us. That never worked for our family. And I actually saw a man do that at Walmart not that long ago, probably, you know, about 8 weeks ago. And I was like, oh man, that's really good for you. And you know, he was there. He was putting his money in the machine. He was just, you know, he's working the steps. He's on his plan. But that just never worked for me. So I still use a credit card. I never liked debit cards. They were weird. They like, when you got gas, they pin at like a certain amount, or like I had a bad experience. Like I bought something at Walmart for like $30 and it pinned to like $200, something absolutely ridiculous. So I don't use debit cards. I only use credit cards. So we're just using this as an example. But let's say your loan's not $100. Your student loans is $100 a month. It's $400 a month, and then you don't have a personal loan, so that's scratched out. And then you actually don't save anything. So we're like, oh, okay, well my goal was this, but I didn't save anything. But my recreation money was this month, because you're thinking about it. You're trying to, you know, you had a goal of having a fun money. Actually, this wouldn't be your goal. This $500 wouldn't actually be your goal. So let's say your goal is $15 a month having fun money. That's really, really drastic. I think to start out would probably be more like 50. I think that's a more reasonable way to scale it back. You kind of got to get used to living on $15 in fun money. Like when I went to the Ferrari race, when it came through Watkins Glen, because I'm in upstate New York, I had to save up 4 months of fun money because the ticket was $40. So I had to save just over 3 months for the ticket, but then I wanted to be able to, or just, you know, 3 months for the ticket, because that's $45, and I wanted to be able to go out to eat, and then, you know, like buy some, you know, buy some things while I'm there, or, you know, just get some snacks or things that I wanted that wouldn't necessarily be included in the budget. So I saved about 4 months of fun money. It was totally worth it though. So let's say your goal was 50. We'll call an audible in that budget because that doesn't make any sense. Goal was 50. You ended up spending 175. So like you totally blew it. Like whatever. Miscellaneous. Your goal for miscellaneous was, let's just say your goal for miscellaneous was 800. Like you don't really know what you're not including in your budget so far because you're new to budgeting. So miscellaneous 800. I'm planning for this. You know, let's say miscellaneous, you spent $1,500. Like, oh, okay, you missed that category. Well, now you're in the negative, and then your internet's still 80 because that's a fixed cost. Oh, okay. So next month, now you know. All right, well, I'm going to change that because that doesn't make any sense because you actually well, you did way worse than you thought. Actually, I'm just going to leave that because that actually makes sense. So your goal is to be only negative $7, and now you're negative $312. Okay, so I got to just change this from green to red. So saying you're in the red again. But at least you know now, hey, I blew my fun money budget. I need to be better about that. My miscellaneous spending. Either I'm buying things that I don't need, like a couch or chairs or, you know, a new TV or things like that. You need to add them to the budget, and you need to plan for these expenses so you're not going into the red. So realistically, if you're like, hey, I really want to be zeroed out on this budget, like that's really important to me, and you see this coming up, like you're seeing like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on miscellaneous or whatever. So I'm going to not buy the new iPad. I'm not going to buy the new iPad. So I'm going to take $500. I don't know. Do iPads still cost $500? I don't know. I haven't bought an iPad in forever. So I'm going to bring that down by $500. I'm just not going to get the iPad. You know, I just don't need it. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not going to affect my life that much if I don't have it, especially if I don't have it this month. Okay, so now you went from being in the red $300 to in the black almost $400. So at the end of the month, you can actually add this $400 into your savings. Like, you know, you should have already had the category and hit that category for your estimated savings. Let's say you didn't. Okay, well, I can add that back in. Now my budget is zero. And it's really that easy to kind of get started in budgeting, because it's just having a goal, being mindful on what you're spending, and then seeing where you're actually spending your money. Because this is a process. This is not, you know, this is not going to be something that's overnight. You know, it's going to take you a couple months to kind of get into figure out where your money is going, because I guarantee you a lot more money is going out than you think it is. And it's going to a lot more places that really shouldn't be getting your money, because your money is valuable and your money realistically should stay with you until you have the ability to make your money work for you. So, you know, you need to be saving for retirement. You need to get a hold of your finances, because you'd be surprised how many times you go to Starbucks or go to Dunkin' or go to Tim Hortons, or you go to McDonald's or you go to Taco Bell, or, you know, we're hitting, it's going to hit the guys here. We're going to Home Depot, we're buying tools we don't need. We're going to TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ollie's, LA Fitness, you know, like things. Well, I'm LA Fitness. I can see that. It's good for your heart. But all right, so we'll forget that one, and that one will actually be in your actual expenses. But you will know more like, hey, I'm getting, my money's going here. I'm actually going to add in, is that how you spell subscriptions? SCRIPTION. That's pretty close. A subscription. So like, we'll just say Netflix, Hulu, Prime. I feel like those are pretty standard things that people have. So this is kind of how you get started in budgeting, and this is kind of the start process. Have a goal, and then have what your actual expenses are, and then try to get your actual expenses to match your goal, because you don't want to be going negative at all anymore. You want to have a surplus at the end of the month. You want to have extra money that you didn't spend, so that way you have more money in your account than you did the month before. And you can just transfer that into your savings, or transfer that directly into your debt down payment, or you're paying down your debt, and therefore increasing your net worth. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you followed along. I'll go ahead and link this video or this sheet right here that we went through down in the description. I don't know if I'll let you copy it, but that way you guys can just copy it directly over to Google Sheets. If you don't know or don't have Google Sheets, you literally just type in, yeah, there it is, Google Sheets, and then you just click right there. You just log in with your Google account. It's free, just a free form of Excel. You can use it in numbers. You're not, if you copy and paste this, you're not gonna be able to copy and paste this directly into numbers, so it's not gonna work, or at least the formulas aren't gonna work. At least I assume so, because I've tried to copy and paste from numbers to Google Sheets and it doesn't work. So I'm assuming it works vice versa. Hopefully this video is helpful. Sorry, it's the next day. As you can tell, I'm wearing a different shirt. The audio got a little weird, so I decided to record over it instead of letting it be all crackly and everything. So in the next episode, we're gonna be talking about how to kind of wring out as much money from your budget as you can. in order to save, in order to pay off debt, in order to start a business, and just kind of like unlock your finances and really start taking big steps. Just a couple tips, some things I learned from Grant Cardone, some things I kind of discovered on my own. But we are going to be talking about the debt snowball, the debt avalanche, and everything that goes along with that. So make sure to check back for part 2. I'll catch you next video.